Hello and welcome to today's Office Hours presentation. This is Paul Hoyt, your host. Our Office Hours presentation is a relaxed, informal mentoring program that we do every Monday at noon Pacific time. All these recordings, slides, and exercises are archived in the members area of our website. And for now, you can get to all of the recordings on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/Paul Hoyt. The reasons we do these office hours presentations is that we know that being a successful small business owner can be a great experience, but we also know that it's tough. You need education, training, and tools and team to be successful, and we want you to get to know us, because when you get to know us, you will know that first and most importantly, we really do care about you. We want you to have success in every area of your life, whatever that means to you. We want you to find the happiness, the greatness, the divinity within yourself. Then remember it, embrace it, and live it every day as we try to do. Our passion is to increase the survival rate, accelerate the growth rate, and to reduce the struggle rate of businesses in America. And our vision is to help millions of CEOs and entrepreneurs accelerate the growth of their business and enjoy greater harmony and balance in their lives. If you find these office hours presentations valuable, I encourage you to pass the word along to other people. I think you all know CEOs and entrepreneurs, small business owners out there that could gain value from belonging to a community such as ours and discussing important topics that can help them be more successful in their business. Our office hours agenda is usually an in-depth discussion of a business success principle, closing remarks, special offers, and invitations for future sessions, and then we go into open Q&A and coaching. So as we go through the material today, write down questions that you may have, type them into the chat box in the GoToWebinar window, and we'll talk to you personally, or we'll answer your questions at the end of the call. We also invite you to join us in the Awakened CEO communities on both LinkedIn and Facebook, where we publish a business success principle today, usually 4 days a week. And every day I do an energy of the day posting on Facebook. Whenever I get up in the morning, I try to offer a little insight or a little inspirational message of some kind around practically a random word, which is a really useful exercise for me, and I've been doing it now 785 days in a row. Today's subject matter is how to be great at product development. As always, we relate the subject matter of the day to one or more of the key performance areas of success, and we're in the third of our 7-part Foundations of Business series, and this one is on product development. The first one was on leadership, the second one was on marketing. If you missed those, I encourage you to go back to our office hours site, the office hours site in our tribe portal, and sign in and listen to those presentations. We also relate the subject matter of the day to one or more of the levels of performance that we've defined with the Awakened CEO system. And today we're going to talk about all three, as we will during this entire series. We're going to talk about the importance of focusing on your mindset, the methods that you have, and the momentum. Our agenda today is, first we're going to briefly remind you about some of the principles about transforming yourself and your company. We'll talk about what is product development and the value of product development and the impact of being great and not so great at product development. We'll talk about the 6 product development success principles, and then we'll sum it all up to the bottom line. So first, a quick reminder about how to change yourself and your company. And that's what these presentations are all about, is to help you transform yourself and have a transformational experience. And that happens on 3 different levels. First of all, you have to know what to do, which is getting education. Secondly, you have to know how to do it, which is getting training, having somebody show you how to actually do it, and maybe even getting experience in doing it. And the third one is actually doing the work itself, which oftentimes takes coaching. Some of you are very self-motivated and self-starters, and if we'll just tell you what to do and show you how to do it, you can go off and do it 100% on your own without any guidance or support or coaching or encouragement. You're just going to go get the job done, and I do that a lot in my business, and I know that you do too. But every once in a while, when something is tougher to implement, when it requires more of a shift of mindset and different methods than we're used to using before and doing different things than we've ever done before, it does take coaching, mentoring, guiding, and advising to help us do it in the way that we really want to do it. And we do talk about different levels of performance when it comes to actually doing the work. Again, our mindset is your beliefs and your perspectives. It's everything about you that doesn't include your physical body and your physical surroundings. When we do the work, oftentimes it requires a change of focus, a change of mindset, a change of attitude, a change of perspective. It usually requires having new plans, processes, and procedures in place. You have to know how to do it, and having a step-by-step plan that allows you to make sure that your next steps are your right steps and that you're operating efficiently can be extremely helpful. But regardless of your mindset shift and regardless of the methods that you have in place, if you don't actually do the work, if you don't actually take action and get into action and then focus on increasing your momentum and increasing your velocity over time, nothing's actually going to get done. So if you focus on those three things, mindset, methods, and momentum, you'll go a long way towards accomplishing the things that you want to accomplish. Let's start and talk about product development now. What is product development? I say that product development is designing, engineering, and building innovative products and services. It's managing your product life cycles, staying on top of technology and advances in your industry, and meeting release schedules and budgets, and improving design time and quality. Those are 6 aspects of product development that I encourage anybody who's an engineer or an inventor or in any way focused on product development to focus on these things. If you are excellent at product development, you have market-leading products. Your competitors may be trying to keep up with you, but they can't because you're so cool. You obsolete your own products with new and improved products and versions of those products before your competitors can do so to keep ahead of the marketplace. You always meet your release schedules. You consistently deliver more features and benefits than the analysts or your customers expect you to, and you're getting better at this all the time. On the other hand, if your company is poor in product development, you may find yourself to be in a very unfortunate position. You may find yourself to have the poorest feature set and the highest prices in the industry. The only people that buy from you are those who don't shop around and visit your competitors, and you haven't introduced a new product in ages. If you are really lousy at product development, you just keep changing the paint and the color of your old products and pretend that you're innovating. You still don't know when your new product lines are going to be ready, and you're afraid to talk about them because they might be obsolete before they're announced, and you're getting worse at all this stuff. Now, none of you on the call today is that bad at product development, but we want you to be better at product development, and that's why we're talking. There are 6 great principles of product development that I've defined originally in my book, The Foundation Factor, and then the Awakened CEO's Foundations course. And here they are. The first one is being market-driven and marketing-driven. Second one is innovating, doing something unique and remarkable. Then comes being an expert at your product development life cycle. Then keeping pace with technology, focusing on quality, and designing products that can be built and maintained cost effectively. Let's talk about these 6 great principles one at a time. First, be market driven and be marketing driven. The most important thing at all about product development to me is to know your customer and know the problem that you are solving. It doesn't pay you well at all to go invent something that nobody wants. Far, far better to be a market-driven company and have a marketing-driven product development function so that you can harness your creativity and create things that give you a distinct competitive advantage. And that requires knowing your customer and knowing the problem that you are solving and keeping that at the top of your mind every second that you're in the product development department. Here's a general rule of thumb that marketers, those people in the marketing department, determine the feature and function set and design the user experience of a product, but it's the inventors and the engineers that do the technical design and actually build the products and figure out how the product is going to be made effectively, efficiently, and cost effectively as well. And here's something that most engineers and inventors don't like to hear, and that is that the inventors and the engineers report to the marketers. It's in the marketing department that we have people responsible for product lines, that we have product managers. Those report to the marketing department, and they have the inventors and the engineers as part of the product development teams, and they report to other departments in the company. Of course, engineers and inventors don't like to hear this. I certainly didn't like to hear it, 40 years ago when I was a software engineer. I was so proud of my ability to create software products that it just didn't seem to make sense to me at all that my creativity could be constrained in any way or managed in any way by people who weren't also software engineers. But that's the truth of running a commercially successful business, that we have the marketing people in charge of what needs to be built, and then we have the engineers and the scientists actually built this. So the only exception to this rule is the R&D department in the product development area of your business. R&D typically reports to not directly to marketing at all. It's once R&D comes up with something new that we turn that idea, that creation, over to the marketing department to let them determine whether or not that goes into one of the products that we are releasing, and what is the competitive opportunity and the commercialization opportunity, the monetization opportunity of that idea that we have come across, that we have invented in the R&D department. To be market-driven and marketing-driven means simply that no features are added to the products unless they bring value to the customers. We don't do anything cool just for the sake of being cool. We do things that are cool from time to time, but only if they have that wow factor in the minds of our customers. We don't do things that we think are cool. We do things that our customers think are cool. And integrated and iterative methodologies work best. Integrated meaning marketing department working with the product development department, the marketing folks working with the engineers to design and build products. Then the classic one that you hear me talk about a lot is the lean startup methodology. And I want to talk just a second about the lean startup methodology and how it integrates between marketing and product development. So generally, in the lean startup methodology is an iterative process, which means we go through this cycle many, many times. We have ideas, we build products based upon those ideas and come out with a product. We take the product to the marketplace and we measure somehow customer satisfaction or the response of the marketplace, and we gather the data whenever we measure it. And then we learn from the data that has come from the testing that we have done, from the communication we have done with our marketplace. And as a result of having that learning, we come back and have more ideas. And then we go through the same cycle again, time and time again. Now, one of the exceptions to this is before we build a product for the first time, before we build a product which we would call the minimum viable product in lean startup methodology and terminology, we don't really actually build a product. We build a survey. We take our ideas and we put them into a survey, and in that survey, then that becomes a description of the product as opposed to the actual product itself. And then we do the surveys, gather the data, learn from the data before we go into actually building the product. And by the way, that process of doing surveys and communicating and gathering the ideas and testing the feedback from our marketplace can happen 2 or 3 or 4 times before we ever actually start to build a physical product or build a software product. And that's what I mean by an iterative approach. The integrated approach comes with the relationship in between the marketing department and the product design department. So we talked about R&D a little bit ago. Maybe a scientist or an engineer says, wow, we discovered this new thing. We discovered this really cool principle, and I have this idea that we may be able to make a good product out of that. So we give it to the marketing people. They go try to figure out, who do we think is going to buy this? What kind of products do we think that we're going to be able to build? And they go and test that in the marketplace. Would you be interested in buying a product that did A, B, and C and was at a particular price? And if so, then give us your feedback, and we'll take that into consideration when it comes to doing the next iteration of market testing and research, or actually building our first products. And then once we build the products, then we get into this kind of design build cycle. Again, cooperation between the product, the development department, and the marketing department is essential to making sure that we have commercially viable products. So how do we implement this kind of market-driven success at our business? First, it takes a mindset shift. You have to choose to be humble and you have to choose to be smart. That's exactly the same mindset shifts that we talked about last week in our principles of marketing, of listening to the marketplace. That requires a little bit of humility, and that means for all of you inventors and engineers out there, you have to accept that some large number of the creative ideas that you have will not turn into commercially viable products. My general rule of thumb is that it's about 1 out of 20, maybe less than that, depending upon the quality of your ideas, maybe more than that, maybe 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 10 if the ideas you come up with are really, really cool. But generally speaking, not all of the ideas that you come up with are going to be able to be turned into commercially viable products. And that takes a little bit of humility and understanding about the process of bringing products to market to live with that. That doesn't take anything away from your creativity. It doesn't take anything away from your genius at all. It's just the way that life works. I also encourage you to put in new methods into your business. Understand that we have product managers in the marketing department, understand what the role of a product manager is. We have design reviews whenever we begin to design products and bring them to the marketplace. And of course, I'm a big fan of the lean startup approach and suggest that you adopt that methodology into any company for any product that attempts to innovate. And to gather momentum, we just get in the habit of being market driven. We get in the habit, for the engineers, get in the habit of being driven by the marketing department. The marketing department gets in the habit of understanding their sacred responsibility to take these great ideas that come out of the marketing department, the product development department, and seeing if they can turn them into a commercially viable product so that the company itself can enjoy greater revenues and greater profits through having unique products in the marketplace. And that takes us to success principle number 2, which is to innovate, to do something unique and remarkable. It's really important that you innovate so that you can give the marketing folks and the sales department something to talk about. Whenever we talk to prospects about the products that we have, it is so much easier whenever you have something that you do that nobody else does, or something that you do better than anybody else does. If you have a product that doesn't have any distinguishing characteristics to it, then essentially the only thing that the marketing department can talk about and the sales department can talk about is convenience and experience. The convenience of doing business with us is better than somebody else. The user experience, the way that we treat you, is better than other areas or other customers that you might go to, other suppliers that you might go to. But what we want to do is give them something that's exciting. We do things that nobody else does. We do things cheaper, faster, better, different than anybody else does. You need to have a competitive advantage, or at least a competitive difference. And keep in mind that there are classic value propositions when you begin to unleash those creative muscles. The first one is fear and safety. Can we develop a product or a feature in a product that helps people feel safer, that helps them relax just a little bit and they feel comfortable in dealing with us? Or can we design something that appeals to their sense of fun, that appeals to their sense of wanting to have comfort, that appeals to their sense of greed in any way? It doesn't really help them make them feel safer, but it helps them have a more enjoyable experience of life in some way. The third classic one is vanity and self-image. Can we develop a feature into our products that help our clients feel better about themselves in some way, that enhance their own self-image or their own self-esteem? So we think about those when it comes to innovation. Again, with innovation, here's some examples from the automobile industry of the way that we see companies innovate. Sometimes they innovate in terms of new features, such as backup cameras and onboard Wi-Fi and heated seats. There's been a lot of advertisements run on TV recently about the newest models. I think it's a Chevrolet that has onboard Wi-Fi. We saw minivans introduce cameras, as backup cameras, and pickup trucks with backup cameras, and SUVs as backup cameras because it's so difficult to see out of the back of those things. We've seen minivans with televisions for the back seat. and onboard game playing systems. So we can add new features that set us apart from our competition. We can produce things with higher quality. For example, produce automobiles that have less maintenance required, or have a better quality audio system, or leather seats. Or we can do things that are less expensive. We can have a lower price point for our products, better gas mileage, better overall cost of maintenance, and lower total cost of ownership, etc. So there's a lot of different ways to innovate. And if you feel like you're a little bit stagnant in innovation at your company, I encourage you to go out and study innovation principles that other companies have published. Here's, for example, Google's innovation principles. They say if you focus on these things, you will always innovate. Number one, focus on the idea that innovation comes from anywhere. Anybody can have a great idea, so listen to it. Great ideas for products just don't come from the engineers and the scientists. They can come from the marketing department, from the finance department, from your customers, from your suppliers, from your competitors. Good ideas come from everywhere. Always focus on the user, which echoes my first success principle of being market-driven and marketing-driven. Aim to be 10 times better. That's an interesting one. When we innovate, we don't think just about incremental improvement, but think about order of magnitude improvement. Think about revolutionary changes, because that's when you can really be stimulated to be very, very creative. Bet on the technical insights that you have. Means that if you think that something's really going to work well technically, then give it a shot. Invest a little time in that and exploring it. Ship and iterate, we just talked about at length. Give the employees 20% time. Google is famous for this. They say to all of their employees, you can spend 1 day a week, or in their case, 20% of the time. Of course, typically the employees at Google are working 60 hours a week, so 20% time, maybe 12 hours, that they can focus on a project of their choosing. They do need to report on that. They do need to be held accountable for that, but they allow them that kind of flexibility to innovate and to test out ideas that they have on their own. Google also says default to open systems. That means when the choice comes in between inventing something proprietary or inventing something that other people can easily add content to, they default to open systems. So they like to use Unix, for example. They have an Android platform, which is an open system platform, as opposed to the iPhone OS, iOS, which is a closed platform system. And they encourage you to fail well, which means that always try to learn something from your mistakes and have a mission that matters. Do something that matters to you, because that will give you more passion, more purpose. You'll have more energy behind it, and I think more creativity too, because of your eagerness to solve a particular problem. So how do we implement success and innovation in our companies? How do we become a company that innovates with greater success and more often? First, as always, shift your mindset. You always try to be creative in the ways that you add value. Think about orders of magnitude improvement and understand that ideas come from everywhere. So always be listening. Always be listening for that great next insight, that great next idea. For methods part of success is engage in brainstorming sessions, ideation techniques, suggestion boxes, and study innovation principles such as the Google innovation principles that we just delineated. And then get into momentum by holding brainstorming sessions. I'm a big fan of off-site brainstorming sessions where we come and we have a little fun, we do some team bonding exercises, we get the energy up with music and all kinds of different ways, and then we go into real high creativity sessions where we're just inspired to have all kinds of activities come out of brainstorming sessions. The third of the 6 great product development principles is to be an expert at your product development life cycle and your design cycle as well. So here's the deal. It always takes time and money to deliver new products and to update your current ones. You always have to be improving and replacing. The products that you have right now are not going to be great products 5 or 10 years down the road, usually like 90% of the time, that you always have to be updating the features set, the function set, and the way that you are delivering those products to the marketplace, and understand that there's a huge difference between physical product development, digital product development, and what I call hybrid product development, or something that has characteristics of both physical product development and digital product development. First, let's talk about physical product development. With physical products, products that are manufactured somewhere, that you put into inventory, that you ship, that are tangible, there's a very high cost of design changes. The testing has to be very thorough, and the transitions in between Model A and Model B have to be managed very, very carefully. Because if you don't manage them carefully, you may find yourself victim of something called the Osborne effect. Adam Osborne was a famous author in the 1970s of microcomputer books, a really famous book back then, and created his own computing company called Osborne Computers. At one point in time, they led the marketplace in computing, small computing gear. This was before the IBM PC was introduced in 1981. So we're talking 1979, 1980 timeframe. Adam made a huge mistake, or his company made a huge mistake, and they announced the next version of their product about 6 months before it was to actually be brought to the marketplace. They really messed up on the transition in between their first product and their second product. As a result of telling people how great the next product was going to be, the next version of their product was going to be, people stopped buying the first product, and they found themselves having stockpiles in inventory of the first product and no way to really sell that product because everybody's mind was already on the next product that they were going to release and all of its competitive advantages. So what we learned from the Osborne effect is that you never talk about that next product until you're very, very close to releasing that product. You announce it, I would say within 30 days or 2 weeks, depending on the product, before it's actually available in the marketplace. And you immediately announce some sort of discounts or some sort of specials on the remainder of your current product line so that you can bleed off existing inventory and people have a reason to buy today instead of waiting for the next release tomorrow. So it's important for you to manage the transition between products and improvements in your product line, especially whenever you have a physical product. When you have physical product, here's some examples of physical product development. New automobile years. So every year in the United States at least, and I think this is true around the world, is that companies come out with the latest product. We've got right now we're in the 2016 model year. They typically make these announcements of features and functions in August and September, and the products become available in October. They run all of their specials on the previous year models in September and October because, of course, the dealer wants to deplete their inventory. They just want to be selling the new model year. And by the way, automobile companies make major changes every 5 to 10 years. A great example of that is the Chevrolet Corvette. It was introduced in 1953. That was 63 years ago. They're on C7 now, what they call C7, which is the 7th major re-architecture of the Corvette platform, of its frame itself. So that's about every 8 or 9 years they came out with significant changes and essentially re-architected and redesigned the entire Corvette. And then we come out with incremental changes every model year. That's their product design cycle, is that every 7 to 10 years we have a major architectural change, and every year we do tweaks to that so that we can have something to talk about for the new model year. Smartphones, the tradition is every year or so. I think that's been the case with Apple at least for the last several years. The iPhone 4, the iPhone 5, the iPhone 6. We hear conversations about the iPhone 7. So we've come to expect a new version of the iPhone every single year. I don't know that Samsung and Google are on that same sort of predictable annual release cycle, but you can bet that they've got release cycle that's close to 12 months, if not under 12 months in some cases. And other consumer products you might see every year or even less than that. With digital product development, the design cycle is much different. The design cycle is much shorter. The cost of change is much less. We don't have to worry about bleeding off existing inventory because, hey, we're delivering electrical impulses, we're delivering bits and bytes, and we can change the way and what we deliver, within a matter of a few minutes or so. Changes can be made very, very quickly. Testing can be done in a matter of minutes or days instead of weeks and months. You can do testing like A/B testing. You can have version A of the product and version B of the product. And when people come in to purchase it or look at it, you can, by giving part of your marketplace version A and part of your marketplace version B, you can decide which one of those is going to work. When it comes to quality testing, you can do subset testing. At Google, they have a 10% program. So whenever they come out with a new feature that they want to put out to their millions of active concurrent users, they will carve off 10% of the people and give it out to them first to make sure that it's going to work before they roll it out to their entire community. There are in today's products that have characteristics of both physical product development and digital product development, and I call those hybrid products, where you have manuals, documentation, and training programs and updates that can all add significant time to your product design lifecycle. And there's a huge difference, by the way, between application packages and other services. It's been my experience to work for several different software manufacturers. Some of them were like Oracle Corporation was releasing new versions of their database system, and others were releasing new versions of their application software packages. In both cases, they had to have a rigorous design lifecycle where they'd put out bug fixes and interim releases, and every several years a major architectural release. But the design cycle was a lot different. So Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter can introduce things very quickly because they don't have a lot of manuals and training systems that also need to be updated whenever they make minor tweaks to their product line. If you have an application software package, that's not true. If you have a database management system, an operating system, that's not true. You have to concern yourself with the quality of products that you put out much more readily and much more intensely than do companies that are just introducing digital products for the first time. And you have to make sure that features that impact your partners and other aspects of your ecosystem are planned very, very carefully, because your partners typically will take your products and they will build features on top of those products or somehow incorporate those into their product lines. So you have to be cautious about what you're doing so that you don't upset your partners as well as your direct customers. So whenever it comes to life cycle success, how do we do that? First of all, we shift our mindset. We understand that there is a product life cycle. We understand that we have need for constant improvement, but we understand that whenever we release a new product, that it has great impact on our ecosystem, on our partners, on our customers, on our suppliers, and we take all of those people into mind whenever we design products and determine how we're going to release them to the marketplace. For our methods, we measure the actual time that it takes to develop a new product so that we become very, very good at predicting how long it's going to take to make the tweaks to a model year on a car, to re-architect an entire platform, to replace a module in our application systems, etc., etc. And we manage our products and projects effectively so that we can keep those design lifecycle components in place. And the way that we implement this into our companies is just try to be great at your next release. The next time that you put out a new version of your product, think about how it's impacting your customers. Think about how it's impacting your sales and marketing department. Think about how it's impacting your partners and your suppliers, and start to put a little more rigor and diligence and science into designing and releasing your next product. When you do that, success principle number 4 says we need to keep pace with technology. Keeping pace with technology, it means acknowledging that we live in a world of rapid change, and you, with the product development department, your number one goal there is to keep pace with technology, because your technology choices are absolutely critical. And let's talk about technology choices for a little bit. The technology that you choose to use, the supply, and that includes the manufacturing resources, the physical materials that you put into your physical products, the software platforms and the programming languages and the database systems and the operating systems that you choose to put into your product determine in large respect, which functions that you can actually build and which features that you can actually put into your product. So it's important to make technology choices that are consistent with delivering quality features that add real benefit and real value to your customers. The choices that you make today will also determine the ease of modification and enhancements, and they will determine your resource requirements for development and manufacturing. And they'll also, by the way, determine the longevity of your product line. And that goes with digital products too. So whenever you are thinking about making technology choices and keeping up to date in product development, here's how we implement that. First of all, it's a mindset shift. We want to make sure that we're staying on the lead. We at least know where the bleeding edge is, and we know where the leading edge is in our industry at all time. That takes continuous study, takes relentless learning, making careful choices. For the methodology of that, we study competitors. We have our own R&D departments. I've had some customers having very successful alliances with universities. We go to conferences like the Consumer Electronics Show, which was just last week or a couple of weeks ago, and we focus on other industries. Just a word about that, because one of the advantages of using a business consultant like myself is that we see a lot of changes in a lot of other industries, and we're able to leverage some things that we've seen, say, in the real estate industry into a consumer product of some kind, because we have a different perspective than someone does when they're just working in one particular industry all the time. So I encourage you to have coaches on your team, people who will help lead you through brainstorming activities, who have experiences in other industries, and use that as a method to help you innovate, to help you keep pace in your particular industry. And to establish momentum and get into momentum, I encourage you to set aside time to study a little bit every day, or at least a few hours a week. And then once you make the decision, to just run with it and go with it just as quickly as you possibly can. Great business success principle number 5 is to focus on quality. One of my favorite books was written in 1979 called Quality is Free by Philip Crosby. It's been a great book. Some of you may not know this, but at one point in time in my career, I was the director of quality assurance for a software company. So I studied quality quite a bit, and I became impassioned about delivering quality products and services. In order to do that, you have to measure quality, and generally speaking, you have to have separate testing resources. So those separate testing resources make sure that you have designed your test criteria, and the people who are developing your products know what the circumstances are, know what feature sets are going to be tested. The separate department has test plans, and they conduct tests independently. So it's important that the test department, is not subject to the engineers, so that they're not inspired to somehow fudge the test results for their buddies. It's their responsibility to make sure that the product meets the spec. Generally speaking, I like the test department to report to marketing and to product engineering at the same time. They report to the product manager in the marketing department, and they report to the engineers who are responsible for building the products in the engineering department. There are a lot of different types of testing that you can do. Unit testing or alpha testing is when the person who is actually designing the product does their own tests. Then usually you throw it over the wall to somebody in an independent testing function to do the system test or the integration test, and that's making sure that this component that you have just changed actually works the way it's supposed to with all of the other components in the system. We do regression tests to make sure that the functionality of some other component of the system has not been broken. We do load tests to make sure that we haven't done something crazily that really slows down the overall product or consumes more resources than we anticipated it was. And we do functional tests to make sure that that meets our design criteria. And eventually we do beta tests and acceptance tests. Acceptance tests from the product development, product design folks and product management folks in the marketing department, or if we're designing something specifically for a client, it's acceptance tests by the client itself. And before we do that, we usually send it out to beta in some way. So in order for you to have testing success at your company, the way that you do that is, first of all, shift your mindset to say it doesn't count unless it works and works very well and according to spec, and understand that quality is free. By the way, what quality is free means is that when you put sufficient and appropriate amount of testing into the design of your products, it eliminates or certainly reduces problems that you have once you've released the product to the marketplace. And once you've released a product to the marketplace, once you've designed into the product a flaw, or you've built 100,000 units that have that flaw into it, it is very, very expensive indeed to recall that inventory, to obsolete that inventory, to replace or repair, some design flaw that's in products that are actually in the marketplace. That's what quality is free means. The methods that we use is to make sure that every product has defined specifications with it, and we understanding the feature and function set that we are designing and building to. We put new testing procedures in at our company, and again, as I mentioned earlier, it's real important to have independent reviews. Somebody who really takes it, as a sacred responsibility to them to make sure that they have tested products appropriately and nothing goes out to the marketplace, especially nothing goes into manufacturing where the cost of replacing and repairing and fixing is enormous until it passes all of the user tests and all the acceptance tests. And to establish momentum, if you find yourself to have quality problems and that you're really having issues, then get professional quality people on your team. At least get a coach, at least get a mentor, advisor, a consultant who can come in and help you implement professional quality standards, quality assurance, and quality control in your company so that you can produce products that are of the highest quality possible. The last of the 6 principles of great product development is to design products that can be built and maintained cost effectively. Engineers, here's the bottom line, engineers can design products that can't be manufactured or maintained cost effectively. And many manufacturing companies have 3 different levels here. We have the engineers that design and build products, or design products rather, the manufacturing people that build the products, and right in the middle is this very specialized field called manufacturing engineering. And it's the manufacturing engineer's responsibility to take the products which have been designed by the scientist and engineer and find a way to build them reliably, efficiently, and cost effectively. They're the ones that say that to build this product, we're going to use these components. It's going to move into Work Center A, where we're going to do this operation on it. Then it's going to move into Work Center B, where we're going to do this operation on it. And then it's going to move to Work Center C, etc. So they design the bills of material, which are the materials that you're going to use when you build a product, and design the routings, which say which work centers we're going to take this product through and what's going to happen at each one of those work centers. And manufacturing engineers also work with the product managers and the manufacturing specialists to decide what tests are going to be done at each stage along the way to make sure that we're doing a quality assurance during the process itself and quality control. When we design products that we can make and maintain, make sure that you understand that happens with digital products too. I have worked for software companies where there were 2 or 3 geniuses in the back room designing software products, but unfortunately they did them in such a way that nobody else could understand what they had done. They didn't document their work very well. It was convoluted. Their development style, was not that great. And as a result, they produced an undocumented spaghetti code that nobody else could understand and other people couldn't maintain it. Real professional software developers understand that it's up to somebody else to maintain and enhance and add features to the products that they design, and they design them so that they can be enhanced over time by people of reasonable intelligence. So you need to make sure that you're doing that at your company. And we're focusing on the entire life cycle costs and knowing how long it's going to take to really manufacturing something and what the true cost of manufacturing and maintenance can be. You may choose to pick a technology that has available resources. The federal government oftentimes requires this. They require that some of the things that you bid on for them has what they call COTS technology, which stands for Common Off-the-Shelf Technology. So, and at your company, you have to make the tough decision of whether or not I'm going to use components with my products that are obscure, that maybe nobody has a lot of experience with, that I can't go find a lot of developers for, that maybe I don't have a lot of engineers or manufacturing resources that can actually build products with this technology. Maybe there's only one manufacturing plant in the world or no manufacturing plants in the world that have experience using this technology, versus designing your products with elements of the technology that are very common, that you have available resources and a lot of different choices for when it comes to making and manufacturing those. So your success in making and manufacturing your products means that you design your products from the start for ease of manufacturing and ease of maintenance. In order to begin that, you have to have great methods, which means that your product managers and your engineers really focus on that issue. We understand that it's possible for engineers and scientists to design products which cannot be made cost effectively, and they cannot be maintained or enhanced by anybody else than the people who originally designed it. So we designed from the very beginning for ease of manufacturing and ease of maintenance. To get into momentum with that is do an analysis of your existing products and those currently in development, and see whether or not you're really designing these so that they can be manufactured and maintained effectively. Those are the 6 great principles of great product development: being market-driven and marketing-driven, innovating, being an expert at the product development life cycle, keeping pace with technology and making great technology choices, focusing on quality and designing products that can be built and maintained cost effectively. And here is your excellence in product development mantra. I will be market and marketing driven. I will innovate. I will deliver unique products so my company has something exciting to sell. I will keep pace with my industry through continuous and relentless study and make great technology choices. I am committed to continually improving and replacing my own products and services, and I'm going to do it quicker and more efficiently over time. Here's the bottom line. The bottom line is you really do have to be great at product development, or your success will be short-lived, or I might say that the challenges with your sales and marketing department will be greatly enhanced because they won't have anything to talk about in terms of a competitive advantage other than, as I mentioned before, the quality of the user experience and the quality of their service. I encourage you to be both cautious and bold when it comes to your technology choices, sometimes being bold and sometimes being cautious, and I encourage you to focus on making improvements in your process with every design cycle. That's been our agenda for today. We talked about how to transform yourself and your company at a very high level. We talked about product development. We talked about the value of having excellent product development and the impact of poor product development. And we talked about the 6 product development success principles that I've defined and summed it all up to the bottom line. So here's your homework. Talk to your coaches and your colleagues about product development and your technology choices. Begin cultivating or acquiring a great product development team, and focus on being excellent in product development from the very beginning at your company, from right now today and for the life of your company. In a second, we're going to go into open Q&A and coaching, where we invite you to ask questions, make comments on the subject matter of the day, and then anything else that you'd like to talk about. We always like to hear what your biggest takeaways and ahas were from the presentation of today, and tell us what you're going to focus on. Here at the Hoyt Management Group, we take great pride on offering a wide variety of services to our clients. In some cases, we will provide education programs and we'll teach you how to do it. In some cases, we will actually do it with you. We have collaborative approaches for helping you write business plans, do your financial projections, create your capital offerings, design your product funnels, etc. In some cases, we will actually do it for you as well. So that comes to CFO and COO work and bookkeeping services. We'd be happy to talk to you about how we can help you be more successful in your business by custom designing a program that's just right for you and helps you accomplish what you want to accomplish. Our next office hours is on January 25th, 1 week from today, and we're going to talk about how to be great at sales. Let me know what topics that you would like for me to address once we get through with this 7-part Foundations of Business series. And next week will be number 4. Today was number 3, so we have 4 more to go. And I'm really looking forward to those. And in between now and the time that we talk again, do your homework. With that, let's open it up to comments and questions on the topic of the day, and then any other issues that you might want to talk about. Stephanie, do we have any comments or questions?
Yes, we do. Let's get started. First one, how do I decide which technology to use? Do I use tried and proven components or the latest and greatest?
That's always a really tough choice to make. That's always a really tough choice to make of whether you use tried and true or the latest and greatest. And my encouragement to you is to use a combination of both, because you don't want every component. Let's take physical products, for example. You don't want every component in your new physical product to be a brand new component, because the odds of failure are greatly increased. So maybe it's just 1 or 2 components in there that maybe it's just 1 or 2 of those components that you have in your new product that are brand new, where you're going out on the bleeding edge or the leading edge of technology. But for the most part, it's built using tried and true stuff. I wrote a book, one of my first books I wrote that really has never been published. Wrote it in 1995, called Managing and Majoring Complexity in Open Systems Environments. And that's one of the insights that I had when I wrote that book. It was that whenever you're pulling together components that have never been used before, we're making this database system and this software platform and and this front end and this application development environment, and we're using them all together, that if every single one of those was the latest release and every single one of those was new into the marketplace, your odds of being successful was practically 0. If 4 out of those 5 were tried and proven and true, and only 1 of them was on the bleeding edge of technology, your odds of success were pretty good, because the 4 out of the 5 components are going to be very stable and mature and something you can count on, and it's only this 1 that you're likely to have issues with. So when it comes to using, to being bold or being cautious, to using proven technology or new technology, my encouragement to you is to use a combination of both. But my encouragement, strong encouragement, is don't try to build a product, either a digital product or a physical product, where every single component that you're using is brand new, because brand new stuff changes rapidly and has a lot of problems, and your odds of being successful are very, very low indeed if everything that you do is always on the bleeding edge. Hopefully that was helpful. Question. Any other questions, Stephanie?
Yes. Here's a comment. Thank you. My biggest takeaways are: know the problem I am solving, add products only that are valuable to my customers, have products that make the customer feel good about themselves. Quality is free. Oh, I'm sorry. Quality is free. Errors cost a lot. Be great at product development.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I am so glad that you shared that with me, because I know, I know the lady that introduced that, and I really appreciate her. And for you to hear those messages loud and clear about adding, adding products that, in your particular case, by the way, increase the self-image and the self-esteem to help people maybe be safe. There's all kinds of aspects of adding products to your particular product line to be able to do that. So that there's a lot of great ideas in this session that I think will pay benefit to you in your stage of bringing your products and services to market. So I love that. And we're close to the top of the hour, but as we've done in the last couple ones, if we still have people on the line, we'll stay and answer their questions for a while. Stephanie, do you have other questions for us or comments?
Yeah, let's do the next one.
Okay.
How do I predict how long it will take to make something? And can anyone really tell?
You know, that is tough. And let me tell you some circumstances under which you really cannot predict and other circumstances where you really can predict. So when you really can't predict how long it's going to take to do something, you know, at its most wild expression is your R&D department. You know, they're just doing raw research. We're trying this experiment. We're trying this experiment. We may be going after something, but we really don't know how many different versions we're going to take. You know, for example, Thomas Edison had no idea that he was going to have to test 1,000 components before he came up with something that really worked, the tungsten filament that really worked for electric light bulbs. He just had this idea that I'm going to find some material that when I put a small electric charge to it, it's going to set off a really bright light, and it's not going to burn itself up or not going to consume itself very readily. But man, he tried everything in the world. He had no idea how long it was going to take. So when we're doing our raw science research and development, we really have no idea how long it's going to take for that next discovery and for us to hone in and tune in on something that we can then perhaps build a commercially viable product from. On the other end of that spectrum, if we've done something a lot, we have a pretty good idea how long it's going to take. So for example, if I'm in General Motors and I'm designing changes to next year's model line, next year's car line, I'm putting out a new version of the Chevrolet, and I've done it, and it's just a model year upgrade. It's not, you know, a total re-architecture of that. I have a pretty good idea how long it's going to take because I've been doing it for literally 100 years. You know, I know how much time and effort, and we oftentimes, by the way, in that particular case, and in the case of bringing the next release of a software product to market, the features that go into that next release are constrained by the time and the money we have to invest in that next release. So for example, I've got a scheduled release of my next, every year I put out a new version of my application product. It comes out in October of the year, and I know that by July of the year, I'm going to freeze whatever I've got in development so that I can begin my testing and do that in August and September. And in September and before the product's release, I'm going to update all of my manuals, etc. And I've got that kind of product development life cycle where I freeze what's in the product at least 2 or 3 months before I release it to the marketplace, and I use those 2 or 3 months to make sure I'm doing effective quality, and I'm producing marketing materials, and I'm updating the documentation, and I'm training my field staff and my customer service people so that the day whenever I release that software product to marketplace, that I am ready to do that. So what we do in January is we say that we want to have these 10 or 15 new features in the next release, and we work on them as fast as we possibly can. Some that we're very confident that we're going to get into this release, some of them we don't know, but there comes a day in the 1st of July when the product manager has to say, all right, we're cut off. Everything that's ready to go to testing today gets included in the next release if it passes the tests. But those things that are not ready to go to testing today will either be put into some sort of incremental release or the next major release, depending upon our product development life cycle. So sometimes we know how long it's going to take to build something and do something. Sometimes that we constrain what's going to be in the next release based upon the available time that it really takes to design something. And sometimes we have no freaking idea how long it's going to take because we're in R&D mode. Hopefully that was helpful. I think it's, you know, on the one hand, we've done it a zillion times and we know exactly how long it's going to take to release, to create the next release. On the other hand, we have never done it at all and nobody ever has, so we have no idea how long it's going to take. And the third example is actually constraining what goes into the next release based upon what was ready in the time frame that we had chosen. Next question, Stephanie.
Okay.
Yep.
What is a technology stack?
What is a technology stack? I'm not sure if I use that expression before in today's conversation or not. I use it a lot. A technology stack is the layering of technology that it takes to produce a complete product. So, for example, if I have an application that's running on my smartphone that I have right here in my hand, an application that's running on my smartphone, there are different components to that technology that deliver that user experience. There's the physical components itself. It's the actual smartphone itself. There's the operating system that's running on the smartphone. And then there's the application, the app that's running in the software environment. Other aspects of that technology stack, if we go into the smartphone itself, there are layers of technology there as well. There's the motherboard, there's the memory, there's different components of that technology that go into forming the technology stack. It's in the physical product. And if we go into the software system, there are different layers of that technology stack as well. So we used to use this term a lot in application development, where we would say that the physical hardware that we were designing for was layer in the technology stack, and then there would be the operating system, and then the database management system, and then the application development environment, and then the delivery environment, and all of those different layers of technology formed the technology stack. The most common technology stack that we hear of these days is called the LAMP stack, L-A-M-P. And I don't know if it's current up to date, but I know it was 5 or 10 years ago. The LAMP stack stood for Linux, which is a particular implementation of the Unix operating system. Apache, which is a database system. It was an application development environment. M stood for MySQL, which was the database software, and P stood for PHP, which was a particular programming language. And that was a very popular technology stack. So that's what the term means. It's the layers of technology that you're bringing together to design and implement and to deliver a quality product to your customers. I've got 104, but we got time for another question or two. Stephanie.
Okay. Next question. How long does it take usually to bring a consumer product to market?
That's an excellent question. I have had, a dozen clients or so that were bringing consumer products to market, and generally I would say a minimum of 2 years. And I know that's a long time for a lot of you, and you think, no, that can't be true. But usually it takes multiple design cycles. So the first time we go out and talk to, as a lean startup methodology prescribes, we go out and talk to 100 people who we think are in our target market. That takes some amount of time, and we get that first design cycle might be 90 days. Then assuming that we had very positive results and we don't have to go do it again, then we're developing our prototype and we're testing our prototype, and maybe that takes 90 to 120 to 180 days. Then we're sending that minimum viable product out to our marketplace and getting their feedback, and maybe if we're lucky, 90 days later or 120 days later, we're actually ordering product in a low volume scenario from our manufacturing resources. And depending upon the tooling and depending upon the quality, maybe that comes back in, in 90 days or 120 days. And then we've got our first product in inventory. Maybe it's only 100 units, maybe it's 1,000 widgets, and we take those out to the marketplace, and we come back and we make product design changes. We go back to our manufacturing department resources, and maybe it's another 90 or 120 days before we get out the next release of the product, etc. I don't know how many times I said 90 or 120 days, but it was more than just a 2 or 3. So to take a consumer product and get it from ideation, from the idea that we have today, to where it's commercially viable in the marketplace and you're making significant revenues, if not profits, with the product, is a minimum of 2 years. It's probably more realistically 3 years or even 4 years. And I know several clients that I have worked with in the past that have taken that long to get their successful consumer product to the marketplace. That's why, by the way, that it's so complex. It's such a complex business model to bring a consumer product to market. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of capital. You don't know whether or not the market's going to respond in the way that you want them to respond. You have legal issues, you have intellectual property issues to deal with, and costs of inventory and costs of accounts receivable and cost of setting up your distribution network. I mean, it is a very complex business model, which explains a lot why only 1 or 2% of all the great ideas out there are ever commercially successful. And that's because it takes a long time and it costs a lot of money, and there's a lot of risk when it comes to bringing a consumer product to the marketplace. I have time, I think, for one more, maybe 2 more questions if they're short. Stephanie, do we have anything else?
One more.
Okay.
How do I predict how long it will take to make something? Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one.
I asked that one.
I'm an inventor, and no one in marketing can possibly know what I create. Why should I listen to them?
I think I heard you say I am an inventor, and I think that's true. I mean, inventors and creative people, nobody can know what you can create. And nobody knows what the R&D department's going to discover. Nobody knows what great ideas that you are going to be blessed with. What we do know is how to determine whether or not we can build a commercially viable product out of your great ideas. We do know how to listen to the marketplace and how to test to see whether or not that your brilliant idea is actually going to be able to be commercially viable. And I'm going to say this again. I hope I said it clearly whenever we started, or we're in the body of our presentation, is that having a great idea is a fantastic thing. Whether or not your idea is commercially viable and can be turned into a great product that's going to earn a lot of revenues and profits for our company has nothing to do with your genius. Your genius is in creating the idea for the first time. It's your good fortune or your luck or maybe your common sense or your wisdom that allows us to take that genius idea that you had and really test to see whether or not it's something that we want to invest our money in, that the company wants to invest our money in and expects to get a return on that investment whenever we create a product out of that idea and take it to the marketplace. Inventors kind of miss that step, much like computer programmers miss the need for documentation, and sometimes people create great products, but they have a hard time completing them. It's, the other half of the story is whether or not we can actually turn your great idea into a commercially viable product. And that's why I say that the product development department needs to be both market-driven and marketing-driven, because that's what it takes to build a profitable business. That's what it takes to build a commercially viable product and to build a business that gives a substantial return to the investors, to the shareholders, to the people who are there waiting for that business to be successful. With that, I want to thank you very much for attending our third session in the 7-part Awaken CEO Foundations of Business series. We talked about leadership, we talked about marketing, we talked about the product development today. Next week, we're going to talk about sales. And until I see you again on the next Office Hours presentation, this is Paul Hoyt wishing you a most marvelous and prosperous day. Bye-bye.